When we first sat down to kind of discuss this, and we joined together, I kind of opened up to the group and said, I really didn't know very much about racism. No one ever called me boy or used the N-word. And I think that I grew up quite sheltered. Both my parents, their parents, Dr. Drew and my father's father, taught at Howard University, and so we never really ventured out past that Howard University community. And so growing up, my parents' friends were all faculty brats as well. And so that was the family that I associated with growing up. And I said I grew up in Columbia, Maryland. We went to, if we went to a beach, we went to a, which was considered a black beach on Chesapeake called Highland Beach. It wasn't private, but it was where the black folks went from Howard University. I'm sorry if
This thing, I think, is pulling us down.
I'm not speaking loudly enough for people.
There, that's better.
The Paynes, the Hills, and the Prices, those were my friends. I never really ventured outside of that. When my father was a practicing physician in Columbia, Maryland, and when they talked about integration, I guess I was shielded from all that. I just didn't know what that. I didn't know what any of that meant. Whenever we traveled somewhere, we traveled in our motorhome, and so we didn't have to experience, you know, going to a hotel or having people look at us crossways. I mean, that happened from time to time when you would go to public restaurants, but most people looked at us and trying to figure out what we were. Because I'm not very dark-skinned, and I don't have traditional African-American features. Really, no one in my family does. And so maybe stepping out into public, no one could really label us right away. When I went away to high school, I wouldn't say I really experienced it, but more curiosity. People would say, well, you don't look black, you don't talk black. So that may have been my experience with it. But I told these guys, I said, I never really experienced it. But then my mom came to Arlington to give a talk to one of the local high schools. And I just showed up because I figured I was going to get free lunch out of it and just go to lunch with Mom after she gave her talk. And so I was in the audience and I was listening to her. And again, I say this, I preface it by saying I didn't know anything about racism. And I never really experienced it until toward the end of her speech, she was talking about, you know, my grandfather's death. He died in the automobile accident in North Carolina. And she said that maybe he would still be alive today if he had the opportunity to pull over and rest in a hotel. And when she said that, it registered with me because, you know, I don't think twice about, as most people today don't think twice about hopping in a car and drive somewhere, and if you get tired, you pull over and you get a hotel room. And growing up, you know, young guy looking for what to do, and I would have loved to have had him as a mentor, but I never had that opportunity, and that was made real that day when my mom said, you know, he may have made it to his destination had he been given the opportunity to take a rest in a hotel. There's a great book that, another thing that we kind of discussed was because the old rumor was that he died in an automobile accident because he wasn't given a blood transfusion. Well, there's a great book out that kind of describes from the doctors' perspectives, the surviving doctors who were in the car, that he actually he was recognized and he was treated well, and they did try and transfuse him. But coming from emergency medicine, in my training, there's something called the golden hour. And reading the details of some of his injuries, by the way, the name of the book is One Blood.
One blood.
And it details the injuries. And coming from a medic perspective, he'd have never made it. Even if they had an ambulance or if they had a helicopter flying and medevaced him out, his injuries were just too severe. And no amount of transfusion was going to help him. It was just, his number was up and that was it.